Let's talk about the business of the day as it relates to theater with your hosts, Darnell Radford and Mitch Weiss. This is The Business of Theater, a working title. Mitch, I know we're trying to look for a working title, but we cannot name the podcast The Business of Theater, Water, Water Everywhere, and Not a Drop to Drink.
And don't say that to anyone in California.
I know everywhere. Everywhere is having
all,
issues with water.
excuse me, all at once too.
Yeah, everything,
Yeah,
everywhere, all at once.
once. There you go.
I say this now because, of course, I'm in Philadelphia and there is a bit of a little water scare. There was a spill over the weekend in the Delaware, and we are all on alert that our water may not be drinkable.
Well,
So we,
you just jumped universes. That's all.
I
What
know.
do they call it in the movie
The
everywhere? The
multiverse. The
multiverse. Thank
multiverse.
you.
I
You
know. I
just
want to go
jumped
back
it.
to the I want to go back to the one where theater was thriving, where it was so I mean, there was so much going on that they were like, "Please just come
I
in.
am
There's enough people
sorry.
paying. You can
I
just walk right
I
in."
am sorry. That is a misnomer. It was a myth. It has never been. There's never been a golden age where money flowed and audiences were. Well, the only exception might be when we had less theaters, less shows opening, and the smaller audience was enough.
Yeah,
But that was
possibly.
such a long time ago. And I'm not even sure that ever existed. We do
Yeah.
tend, Broadway tends to go through 10-year cycles as far as style.
Hmm.
Of course, something like COVID can disrupt anything, because we've never been closed down. And
The guest that won't leave.
yeah.
The one we all hate.
So, now that audiences are, coming in no matter what, they still don't want to come because they got used to Hulu and Netflix. Um, they're having trouble getting, although they're making good money, they're having trouble getting to the movie theaters. You can see them at home.
I argue uh, that television was getting better. Period. It just was, but that I don't know that that is fully the reason. It's
Uh,
the same. It's the same thing as saying like, most people would just prefer to work from home, but the truth of it was that people were more productive when they worked from home because they didn't have bullshit meetings they had to go to every 5 seconds. They realized that they could actually sort of challenge themselves to see how productive they could be at
I,
home
I am going
and
to
not just
challenge you again. I'm
and
going
also
to
get the other stuff that
You're
needed
you're a
done.
self-motivated mother.
I
You
don't
are
know. There's something about being
There
at
are
home and being able to do
so
laundry,
many,
but also
yes,
get an hour worth of work done.
and there are
Uh,
people, and I've worked with them and I've hired them and I have seen them who can only do their laundry and will eventually come around to, well, then I should have lunch and let's make lunch an hour and a half. It is a style and a type of person. The self motivated people can work in a corner, in a closet, standing on their head, and they will be more productive there. You're right. The meetings are worthless, but the meetings are for people who aren't self motivated. And fortunately, those of us who are get tossed in the meeting with the others. We don't need it.
I want to start a business. I want to start a new business called Unicorns Only. And I just want to hire
There
unicorns.
you
You
go.
know who you are.
That's right.
Send me your resume.
Same here. And when I was hiring people at the New York Shakespeare Festival, and we had the largest employee list of any theater. We had 600 people. When I was hiring there, we always looked for overqualified people, as opposed to we're looking for someone who does group sales. Let's find someone who has done group sales, and
Mm.
that's enough.
And did you underpay those overqualified
Of
people as well?
course, of course, we did. It's nonprofit. That's a whole new issue. You want to go there? Did
I just watched. I think because I do watch a lot of I do watch a lot of think pieces, and I know they're food for thought. They're not really like, oh, this is gospel, but it does make you think. And I watch. Uh, there's a there's a there's a channel on YouTube called How Money Works,
Mhm.
and they were talking about why. Well, it's always like a gotcha kind of title. So the title was "Why Dumb People Make More Money," and they were saying, that the highly educated people, they have to go through a lot more to get their jobs, and their jobs are so specific that there aren't a ton of them. So for some reason, those positions don't pay very well. It was a very interesting thing, and it was just like, so you're saying like you perhaps if you don't work that hard, you
Mhm.
might actually do better. I don't know, but it's something. But they were also arguing this doesn't mean you should stop, working hard.
Yeah.
It just means like here's the reason why it seems like these people are just making way more money,
So
and
let's
you're
talk about
not.
money. How do you make a living in the theater?
I don't know that that is possible. I don't know that it is. I
I
feel like, well,
We're
actually,
agreeing now. We are agreeing.
yeah, I feel like the only way to make money in theater is to yeah, this is I just got done saying that you always say this is like you have to marry somebody who already has money, and then the money you make in theater doesn't matter.
That's it. The other thing is, as with our society, the rich get richer. If you have the money to invest and you
Oh.
hit Hamilton, that's when you get richer.
Honestly, yes. You can make money in theater with financial literacy, which actually doesn't have a whole lot to do with theater specifically. It's like you need to commit to a life of in the theater, but also commit to financial literacy, like learning
Okay.
as much as you can about how to manage what little money you have and how to
Well,
make the most of
that's
it.
what management does, which is very exciting. On
Yeah.
the other hand, um, don't tell anyone's parents. I mean, we do have to say the cliche, which is, but we live the richer life because we love what we're doing. Okay, I've said
Hmm.
it. Now let's get over that.
Do
Uh,
we?
well, you know what? Looking back, um, well, I don't want to look back. When I compare myself to people in my family and friends who aren't in theater or the arts, they are jealous.
Mm,
And I've never quite understood that because they own two Jaguars and I don't. There are people in the arts who cheat and who steal from their clients, and they do have homes in Hawaii and on the coast and all that stuff, so they can make some money. But they're not really what we call theater folk, right? They're in this to how do I get over as opposed to how do I get by. And
mm,
I think the future, which we lost during the pandemic, but the future lies in rethinking what we're doing.
yeah,
I do not have solutions yet, but I do know I spent a lot of time thinking about this because the way I grew up and the nonprofits versus the commercial theater, neither of them are the answer. We've done something wrong. When it works, it's phenomenal. We know we love it. There's no question. But money
yeah,
wise, at least on Broadway, we pay decent salaries. They get decent, right? But they're not going to get rich.
yeah.
Whenever
But there's that. Yeah, I mean, they have to because there's such uncertainty. You never know what happened. One week you're getting paid very well. The next week you've been told you're closing on Friday
that's right. Well,
or Sunday.
and they used to bitch and bitch about how much the stagehands and musicians were making on Broadway compared to everyone else. And my argument always was, that doesn't look like a lot of money to me. Yeah, they're making more than I am, but they're working 14-hour days. And when they get a day off, they find another job to help somebody on another show as a sub so they
Mm.
can make some more money. And they're still not rich.
Yeah.
So what? Why would I argue against them? Good for
Yeah.
them.
They are super they are super talented. They
Yeah,
deserve to
they,
get
they
paid what they get paid.
they can sink the Titanic on stage, and I can't. You know,
Yeah.
that's something to be said. Anyway,
Yeah.
well, but and I used to say, and I think I still would probably say it again. I loved having so much money to spend on a project. You know, be as a manager being given $18 million in a checking account and being told you have 8 weeks to spend all of this to get us to an opening night.
Brewster's Millions.
There you go. It was very exciting, although it was 24/7, so you don't even know you're having a good time. You're just
Yeah.
working day and night and still making your same stupid salary.
You're like, where did all that money go? I'm renting 3 offices across town. I paid for them in full.
Yeah,
Yeah. Um, but there is a lot going on. Here in Philadelphia, we're in the middle. Well, we're at the beginnings, or kind of in the mid beginning of Philly Theater Week. Um, this is when the theaters and art makers in the community come together for 11 days to kind of showcase what we have to offer. And
and
I
why is
think,
it 11 days? Where'd that come
I
from?
don't know, it's like it's a week in name. It's because of when it starts and how it ends.
Okay,
So it kind of starts on a Friday. Does it start on Friday? Starts on Friday.
whatever.
Yeah, it started on the 23rd of March and it ends on the 2nd of April.
And is there
Um,
something? Is can you may not know this? Is there a particular reason that those weeks were chosen? Because I do know that when we have 2 for 1 weeks on Broadway and off Broadway, it's during the dead of winter when it's
hmm.
hard, even harder to get audiences. So they're trying to attract
I
people.
It's possible that has been the case. It's sort of like after that lull, that like winter lull, after the holidays where everybody has spent all their money
Hmm.
and trying to come down on their credit cards and like, hey, spring has sprung. Let's get back into it. It is kind of around this time frame every year, but it's not like they don't have the dates planned for next year yet. Wish they I hope they do plan ahead so that we can plan accordingly.
Do you think it brings in more of an audience?
Do I think what?
It brings in more of an audience, or is it
I
just
think
a promotional tool in
I
general?
well, I think Philadelphia embraces the festival mindset.
Okay,
We love fringe arts. We love the fringe festival. And I think festivals give us that kind of mindset of there's a lot to take in, and we're up for the challenge. So I don't know. It's interesting on this side of the pandemic to see, if that's still the case. But I do like. I think a lot of creativity comes out of this week. I think it gives people dates to plan for,
right.
to kind of build something around, and to be a part of something bigger. And there's a festival guide that's downloadable, and actually, Philly Theater Week this year is all pay what you decide. So
Nice.
every production that's a part of Philly Theater Week is pay what you decide in that window of time, which is great because some of these productions run longer than Philly Theater Week does. So I think that is like there's no stakes. Just make a reservation and then show up.
Right.
And then support it. It's kind of like the mindset of like Free Fringe in Edinburgh. Like we also have Free Fringe here in Philly, where it kind of follows this sort of trunk show model where you're going to come see it and then tell us what you think it's worth. And I think that that's a great thing because if people are hesitating, thinking like, I don't know if I'm going to go through all that and is it going to be worth it? But I could also imagine that there are still some people who are saying like, well, I don't know, it's pay what you decide, and then I still have to park and I have to figure out if I want to have dinner, and it's still going
It's
to be a
true.
thing. But I think for the most part, people are saying like, perhaps I can just fill my dance card and just show up, and and I can decide at the time what it's worth.
Can you?
But in terms of like attendance, I think it's an opportunity to build attendance, especially if you're a small company,
And the
or
question
a
is, which
collective.
would be? I'd be fascinated to know if anyone's taking statistics to see. Because bottom line still is, if a show is good, it's going to attract more people eventually,
Mhm.
right? But you could say, hey, we're offering 5 shows on Tuesday for free, but if they're all terrible, right? It does. You don't want to say, well, the festival didn't work. It was just
True.
those shows were bad. So it's really hard to use these statistics well,
Well,
right?
I think it's more of a marketing opportunity. Theater Philadelphia is essentially a marketing kind of,
Mm-hmm.
you know, apparatus for the theater community here. And so like the guide is broken down by neighborhood. So if you already live in the neighborhood and you can see, oh, there's 10 shows in my neighborhood. Perhaps
Right.
I can walk to them, or craft my night out of these things. Or hey, I've got friends over there. Maybe my friends will want to come join, and
If you're a theater
we can
person who actually bothers to research it,
yeah.
and that's still, again, I still go, and I don't know what can be done about this, but the percentage of people who live in the tri-state area who go to theater has not changed in
Yeah.
my entire lifetime. Disney notwithstanding, all these wonderful shows notwithstanding, tourists make a difference. There's no question. So if you can bring the tourists in, but cannot for some reason increase the basic audience. It's shocking.
Maureen, I'm not a theater person.
There you go. And we keep trying to
Never be a
attract
theater person.
school kids, when they're younger, to bring them to the theater for free, and we do all of that in New York, um, and still the percentage stays the same. I don't.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's good to I think it's good to say, or at least good to see, that even through everything that is consuming our brain space, that these things are still happening.
Mm-hmm. I
And
agree.
over the weekend, I've had a couple of conversations with some artists who are participating in Philly Theater Week, and I actually sat over the weekend and said, perhaps I should put a couple of these on my calendar, and honestly looked through it and said, yeah, I think I can make some of
Mm-hmm.
this work.
On the other
Because
hand,
usually I just go,
right. On the other hand, I this weekend that we're currently in, or just finished, there was a Manhattan School of Music, which is a
"Hmm,
wonderful higher education place here in the city. Somebody was putting on an original musical, probably written by one of the students. They didn't advertise it that way, but it was certainly starting their students. It was just for the particular weekend. And even though the topic didn't get me excited, I'm going, I'd love to see an original musical, see what kids are doing and the whole bit. I didn't go.
hmm,
That doesn't mean I haven't seen things recently. I have. New York, we have a wealth of options. I
yeah,
have 3 good friends who are in an original show tomorrow night. I can't go, and it's only for one night. So, again, I'd love to go see them. It's not the show that's attracting me, it's that they're friends, right?
yeah,
So I don't. I don't know the answer to this marketing. Um, and of course, now that we're headed into the spring, certainly in New York, and maybe I would. My whole problem with festivals, like in Philly, I only have so much time, and I may want to see all 10 of those shows in my neighborhood, but I have to choose.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
Well,
hard.
I don't think it's designed for you to go see everything. Um, Again, that's why I like that the guide is broken down by neighborhood,
Mm-hmm.
because you can just decide to focus on what's going on in your neighborhood,
Right.
and you don't have to go to everything in your neighborhood. It's just the fact that here is a concentrated collection of offerings in your neighborhood or within your, between work and home, and you can decide to go to one or two of them. But for me, there's a couple of things that I
I'm
did.
sorry. Anything in the festival that's a musical, or are they all plays?
Um,
You
I'm
don't have
sure
to look it up. I just it.
it's broken down by, there's many categories. So they've done a good job in the um yes, yes, there are.
Okay.
There are. And they're not all like brand new
Mm-hmm.
too, for example. Like, Bristol Riverside Theater, for example, is doing cabaret, and cabaret is, you know, they do have some dates that are part of Philly Theater Week.
Okay.
So, that is something. Um,
That's the show of the show of the decade. It seems everybody wants to do some version of that. Uh,
well, that's what I mean. Like the work isn't all brand new. A lot of it is in progress, but there are things that are, um, that just lined up, and
mm-hmm.
so they are part of the festival for those days, which is, but there's a lot of comedy, there's improv,
Cool.
there's devised work, there's LGBTQ specific, there's a lot of queer art um on the stages, which is really good. um
All right. What? So
Sometimes
what do
people
we
come by.
suggest to our audience? How do they choose?
I
People
don't know.
listening to us talk here.
Oh, for this? I mean, we're talking about theater. It's the business of theater. So if you didn't come here to hear
Well,
about
how do?
theater,
Well, no,
I'm
no. I
not
don't
sure
mean
what you're in
that.
for.
I mean, I know my parents' friends will often call me to say, "What should I see?" And I'm
Okay,
going,
so I would say this.
mm-hmm.
Um, there is some value to get. There is some value um, with getting in on the ground floor, like a production that's a work in progress. Like you might see a piece that didn't exist until now, and it may actually it may actually evolve by the next festival, by Fringe, for
Mm-hmm.
example. And if you see it now in its iteration, so for example, I know this is like so out there, but like just think about, Fleabag at Edinburgh Festival Fringe was a one person show,
All right.
and it became a two-season series, and it
On
was a
on
hit.
TV
Yeah, on
right.
yeah, and it was such a hit. But it was like, the people who got to see it at the festival are like, "Oh my god, like that I saw it. I saw it." Yes, and they have a different kind of attachment. And so you never know, you know.
Well, and
You never know
I
where you
I
can.
like seeing. To me, it's not about whether it's going to move on, and
Mhm.
become this thing that I share with the entire world that I got to see it and blah blah blah. I want to leave a place going that was worth my time.
Yeah.
And if it never goes anywhere, because we know most shows don't. I mean, there's only a handful that are going to become big successes. Um, so that's not as important as that. I've seen a number of shows that just filled me with excitement, even though they weren't perfect. Um, and I feel special the fact that I'm one of the few who actually got to see it, and I could tell the playwright or whoever, the director or the actors, that was special. Thank you. And in a sense, you did it I felt like almost for me, because there's maybe 20 people in the room or 40 people,
Yeah.
and I love that just as much. It's great to share an exciting production with everybody. If you get the giant Hamilton hits, you can all say, "Ah, I saw that, you saw it." We can all get excited and we share that. But
Yeah.
our society is doing less and less of that. I'm going to drag this conversation over to music. Um, Radio stations used to tell us what we're supposed to listen to. There'd be, the top 40, and pretty much they, by payola, were being told by the record labels what goes into that top 40. Now on Spotify you can have 4 billion different songs, and everyone's stuck trying to promote themselves. And who knows if 100 people listen to it and they're all family, or they're listening to it 12 times. um, the artists aren't making any money, so that's beyond it. And they can all say, well, my song came out, but it's still only Beyonce and what do Lady Gaga and and Jay-Z. They're still the only ones making money. So
Harry Styles is making some money.
and Harry Styles. But the trick
I
that
get your point, though.
yeah, and the point. By the way, I saw Pink performed a new song on TV the other night. Um, and her performance just blew me away. I mean, she is just in a class by herself. On the other hand, I'm not going to buy that record, right? That's not going to happen. But the performance I would go see. So now we have live performance again. And that's now, see how I'm dragging this back into theater, right?
Yeah.
And that our art forms are meshing, they're mixing, they're becoming, I'm not going to, it's not multimedia, but they don't, circus arts can turn into Pippin on a Broadway stage. And you can't do Pippin unless you have circus performers who know how to do that stuff.
Yeah.
So now you're mixing, and Ringling Brothers is supposedly coming back as a circus with no animals.
Mm.
They became world famous because they had the animals. So now they have to reinvent themselves. That's going to be an interesting um, version, a new art form, whatever that becomes.
Yeah.
Um, so it brings it back to, then you have Sweeney Todd, which has blood flowing everywhere, which is the opposite of Sound of Music and My Fair Lady, right? Um, by the way, and then I also read the show Head Over Heels, which was a flop a few years ago, based on it was the music of the Go Go's. That's who it was,
Yeah.
and that was a big flop. Supposedly, the guy who wrote the original version that excited people out of town, that made them want to raise the money to bring it to Broadway, he is now opening his mouth and writing about how the producers screwed him and took
Mm.
it away from him after he wrote what he thought was a hit, and what ended up on Broadway wasn't his show. It's an interesting dilemma. I
Mm.
mean, I don't know. He's right. The producers may have been right. Who knows what happened? Um, and I'm ranting now, but it's like, to me, I everything I see, from television to music, um, to streaming to theater, it's all starting to influence each other. But the bottom line is, seeing it live is what excites me. And
Yeah.
that's what brings me back to what we're talking about. The problem is, can you make a living doing what we like, which is live? Yes, you can do a concert for 50,000 in a stadium and make money. Except the
Well,
people working
yeah.
there aren't necessarily making a lot because it's not a full-time gig, right?
You can, but the thing is, like, what do you mean by a living?
Yeah, good
We're trying to
question.
pay for a house? Because
Yes.
maybe not.
Well, we're
uh,
still going to go by the American dream, which was a
there
car, a house, a family, and
and
some time to spend with your family. That was
and
the American dream.
and it was a fabrication. It doesn't exist.
Yes, it was.
No, it doesn't.
It
It was
doesn't.
created
Not anymore, certainly. If it
created by
did,
filmmakers in Hollywood.
mm,
You know,
yeah.
so um, yeah. Can you live a good life? You know, working in the theater, absolutely, yeah, because you will feel fulfilled. You will have great connections, and you'll feel like you're doing something that matters, that makes you feel like you're not just doing something empty. And yeah, I mean, I there is a place for theater, absolutely. I don't think we have to look at everything as, can I retire a millionaire? Because
No, but can you
there's
retire is an interesting problem.
yeah, but there are other reasons why, even in any other field, it would still be a struggle to try to
Yeah,
retire.
it's true.
So you can't blame theater for that.
No, no, but there's an element of the freelancing nature of theater. Like
Hmm.
the reason unions exist on Broadway is so that there can be some consistency in that there are rules that you must be on the payroll so your Social Security and Medicare payments are made from your paycheck, so you will get them, as well as pension payments, by the way, so that
Yeah,
when you retire you might not be poverty stricken.
you'll have
If
something.
if you're working in regional theater or stock forever, that may not happen.
Hmm.
And certainly in the music industry, if you're jumping from artist to artist to artist to artist, unless you've set up your own pension account and you contribute to Social Security legally by doing your taxes the correct way, you will not have any money left when, and by the way, a lot of famous artists are absolutely poverty stricken in their old age. A lot. And in the old days, in the 50s and 1960s, they didn't even make royalties coming in after the initial record. That had to go to the courts for them to be, for their producers to be told, you cannot rip these artists off. I don't care what contract they signed. So this is not a new thing. On Broadway, there
You
was
can't you can't rip artists off.
no, you can.
You
You
sure?
want me to name names? They're still doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's probably how you get rich. All
Mm.
right. Um, anyway, we're gonna be positive here. How come you're not singing the money song from Cabaret? Darnell, where's the energy here? Come on, money makes the world go round. Ching ching.
uh,
You
it wasn't in my show notes.
know. uh,
However, what was in my show notes
yes.
is that Smash, the musical,
Smash.
will open on Broadway in the 24-25 season. Interesting. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I enjoyed Smash.
I
You
didn't.
know, I know it's whatever. There's a love
Talk
hate
about a
on that.
fantasy that isn't even close to reality. I do find the truth about backstage entertainment. I do
Hmm.
find that interesting. You need to
Yeah.
base it on some reality because it's interesting enough. Why do you have to turn it into a massive soap opera? It isn't.
Yeah.
There are people who have those parts of their lives. I get it, but I that we have reality television for that, right? Where they're making up their hatred of each other and they're fighting with each other. I don't need that in a musical that didn't, if it didn't happen. I,
I know it was very it was very scandalous.
yeah,
It felt like yeah, it felt like a soap opera.
that's what it was. It
Yeah.
was,
Uh
which is why,
there were things I liked. There were things I liked about it. There were moments in the episodes that I liked. There were a lot of things I didn't like. Honestly, I would have loved to see a full production of Hit List,
okay, I understand.
which was
Yeah,
the second musical in
I
the
agree.
series.
I agree.
Yeah.
If you had to do one, maybe they'll give it a, remember they're going to reduce a series down to 2 hours or so. So they have to pick and choose.
Yeah.
Um, but hopefully they'll pick and choose the interesting parts.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll
Yeah,
see.
I have very little faith. I'm with you. I have very little faith.
Yeah, I mean, it's in the news, so I put it in the show notes. But
There
you
you
know,
go.
the other one I'm looking forward to seeing. I'm actually going to see it um next week.
Yes.
Six recouped its investment. Uh,
Took a
so
while.
now,
It took a
yeah,
while, which it shouldn't have. It's a hit.
yeah, but now I can just make profit.
Yeah.
So
Well, and then each
good for
touring
them.
company has to break even, but they're doing fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, good for them. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
we want every show to break even.
Mm-hmm.
That's the goal. But with all these new shows opening, as we, the spring, here we go again. Nothing has changed after COVID. We're back to a million. I don't exaggerate, of course. A million shows opening in the spring just before Tony nominations, just to be eligible, and they compete with each other. And even the Tony voters can barely find the time to go see all those shows. Nevertheless, the critics. And if there's a limited audience to start with, who's going to see all of them? Which means that by July 4th, two-thirds, if not more of them, will have gone away, even if they're good. There's
Yeah.
just not enough people to see
Well,
all of them.
I know, and that's perhaps that's why there's quite a string of limited engagements.
No, the limited
Come.
engagements can, that even if you can't bring in an audience for that limited engagement.
I know, but I'm saying like at least they have an opportunity. They have an opportunity, whether it's limited or not. It's just to be at that level.
Okay.
I think it's good. Um, one of our Philadelphia theater is all in a tizzy about Fat Ham because
Yes.
our Pulitzer Prize winning playwright James Imes first play on Broadway. Fat Ham was a lot of fun at the Public. It was a virtual production at the Wilma Theater originally. It was presented in a Philly Theater Week way back when, and now it's going to have it shot on Broadway. So it'll be interesting to
Wish it a
see.
lot of luck.
Yeah,
Really do.
yeah.
Although, again, my fear is just because when it's opening, it's the beginning of the spring season.
Hmm.
Luckily, it's a roundabout theater. They have subscribers,
Yeah.
but I'm hopeful that it will find an audience.
Yeah.
Off Broadway at the Public, which also has subscribers, is different than trying to open on Broadway for a tourist audience,
Hmm.
right? And that's where the trick is.
Yeah.
Um, but it's a good show. It's a lot of fun and worth seeing. So, and then which leads to Theater Exiles, James Iron's play, which I am
Who?
seeing. Yeah, I'm seeing.
Who?
When am I seeing it? I'm seeing it next month or this month. No, April. April. I'm coming down to Philly to see it. I'm looking forward to it.
Yes, James Himes is having a moment, which is great. If you if you've been listening for a minute, been talking about James Himes a lot. Maybe I can get him on the show. Not likely. He is so busy. But
Well,
yes. Theater Exile is presenting a James Imes original, a world premiere, Abandon, um, April 27th through May 21st. Yes.
uh,
I'm just like yeah. I'm looking forward to it. I'm really looking forward to it. It is just kind of a cool thing. And this isn't really the first that was kind of like this. Philadelphia Theater Company had a production um, that was on their stage that the writers, one of the writers, Max Vernon of K-pop, had K-pop on Broadway, and then had the Tattooed Lady on their stage. So that was kind of interesting to kind of have uh, two shows, and like one is having a world premiere. Well, they're both having world premieres. Was K-pop a world
Okay.
premiere?
Yes, it was.
Both having premieres,
Yeah.
and like on that big stage, and then a big regional stage as well. So it'll be interesting because our stage is not PTC's stage. It's a little bit more intimate, but it is kind of good, and I can imagine that it's just a little bit. It's a great feeling. It's a great thing, but I can imagine that being just a little overwhelming
Well,
to have two
this
shows
past
happening at the same time.
Friday we did a live reading of a new play called one. I love the title, Everyday Monsters by Grant
Hmm.
McDermott, and it blew me away. It was one of
Yeah,
those things where you just go, "This will be on a stage. This will knock an audience on its ear or whatever you're supposed to
Grant
say."
McDermott
Yay,
was on the
Grant!
second episode of The Business of Theater, so you can go back and listen to that one.
There you go.
That was before he had
Yeah,
he
and
had another
so I'm
production.
just hoping
That was
this
really good.
man finds his audience. He's had a show open off Broadway before, but he's just a true talent, and the show is just amazing. The actors were phenomenal. I
Mm.
guess I should name them. I don't know why not. Carolyn Holding, John Prosky, Justin Adams, and Lee Adele Arnold. I'll give them their due because they were all wonderful. It's a four character comedy drama.
Mm.
And if anyone's out there who's got a theater and wants a great play, contact us. We'll send you Grant's play.
Yes.
Um, Beyond that, uh, we're I'm trying to think of what's coming to Broadway this spring that's exciting me. Um, can you think of anything that's truly like I can't wait, I can't wait?
Well, I mean, I am excited about Merrily We
But
Roll
that's next
Along.
season,
Well, oh yes, yes, yes.
right? That's
But I did want to talk about
okay.
that because
Uh huh.
because uh I got in the pre-sale rat race to get tickets, and they had a little bit of a Ticketmaster kerfuffle.
Kerfuffle. Yeah.
Kerfuffle. Kerfuffle. Yeah, it was touch and go for a minute there, but I did manage to get tickets, and I hope it does well.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it. It sold out immediately when New York Theater Workshop, released tickets, and then it was like, you can hang on in the lottery. You might be able to get some tickets that free up, and we just gave up for that. We were like, we'll wait for it to come to Broadway, but that's not until
Yeah.
September.
Yeah, that's I'm as you know because I probably have said this 100 times. I'm one of those people. If you're charging me $1,000 a ticket, I will wait. It's theater. It's not brain surgery, and I know it's important for a
Well,
lot of people to
yeah,
buy Christian Dior only, and to wear Cartier watches and to spend the most you can and get it first. I'm not one of those people. I like to be. There's so much good, interesting theater that I
I
go
was,
to this
yeah,
stuff that isn't costing me $1,000 first and wait until the price
I
comes
was,
down.
I was so happy to update my my prescription in my glasses, because now I can actually see in the theater. So there are, I just can't sit in the last row, and I think
Yeah,
I'm okay. but,
yeah. No, I
but
got
yeah.
spoiled as a manager. We always gave each other free tickets as long as we weren't losing money for the show. If there was an empty seat, we would
Yeah.
allow another manager to come in and
Mhm.
see the show for free. But we always gave each other good seats because there's always a good seat that's being held in case of an emergency.
Mhm.
Don't let them
Yes.
ever tell you it's sold out. It is right up to 2 hours before showtime. We are hiding tickets.
Yeah.
So, and if it's a hit, they get sold last minute. That's not a problem. But,
Oh, well,
you know,
so Sweeney Todd opened
yeah.
on the 24th. Well, yeah, Sweeney Todd opened last week.
Hmm.
And what's coming? New York, New York is in previews.
It's an interesting prospect. I did go on YouTube and see Liza Minnelli when she was 100% Liza Minnelli on the Radio City Music Hall stage with a what looked like an 80-piece orchestra singing New York, New York by herself. No dancers, nobody. And the full 5,000 people in the audience, and she blew them away.
Wow.
That's when she commanded that stage, that humongous stage, all by herself doing that song. So, and John Kander now has West 44th Street has been given a secondary name. John Kander, who wrote New York, New York, and Cabaret, and 100 other things. He's gotten his name put on West 44th Street in front of the theater
Yeah.
where New York will be.
Saw that.
So
Yeah.
that's nice. And by the way, John Kander went to Oberlin College, where I went. So and he has a little theater out there named after him as well.
Fun, fun. Also, recently opened Bad Cinderella.
Mm-hmm. Did
Um,
not, it was not well received, shall we say.
oh,
But unfortunately, and nobody wishes this, um, wishes him ill, but his son um, passed away, which is why he
mhm.
couldn't make it to opening night.
Oh, mhm,
His adult son.
mhm.
That's a horror. To first of all to get mixed to bad reviews. Of course, others of his shows have gotten the same, and they ran for years and years. So who knows what will happen with Bad Cinderella? He has a fan club, right?
Yeah.
Um, so we'll see.
We'll see.
But I'm saying there's nothing that I feel like I have to run to. But we'll see. Maybe somebody will get me excited. You know.
I don't know. Well, if you don't run to it, who will?
Uh, you.
That's it. It's like we have to run and say that we're running so that people can run behind us.
That's right. That's right. And I don't want to discourage anybody. There are some magnificent shows to see, including
Yeah.
the old standards, but there are some new shows out there. I'm just not running to them. I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
There
Yeah.
are a lot of things to see.
Yeah. Well, if you make it, if you make it out, you know, add some theater to your night out
That
wherever you are.
add some excitement. Say that again and say it like you mean it.
If you make it out,
If you make it here, you can make
add
it
some
anywhere.
add some theater to your night. Add some pizzazz.
That's right. It
Some wonder, some amazement. Escape into a
And
theater.
call us if you're not sure what to see. We'll tell you, based on your
Call us.
entertainment. Yeah,
Call
we're
us.
happy to recommend things.
We don't get many calls from you. Yes. Anyway, speaking of which, we should probably get going.
Yep. But we will talk
Yes.
about Tony's perhaps next time.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Tonys are coming up.
They're coming up, and there's a
They're
lot to
coming
talk
up.
about the award shows. Um, and by the way, if you did like, and I'm not sure everyone did, but if you did appreciate the Oscars and the telecast that went on for that, it was certainly smoother with no slaps
Mhm.
this time. But if actually you thought it went pretty well, it was produced by the same Glenn Weiss who produces the Tony Awards every year.
Mhm.
and he
Yeah.
keeps winning the Emmy for producing the Tony Awards.
Yeah.
So
They're
that,
like trash. They're like trash in his house, these Emmys. He's like, I don't need them.
yeah,
All of my grandchildren have an Emmy at their their
I'm
homes.
sure they're going to be up for auction very soon.
He's like, here, take this. Take this. Yes. Anyway, well, that's The Business of Theater, a working title. I'm Darnell Radford,
I'm Mitch Weiss.
and we will see you at the theater.
Bye bye.
Thank you for listening. Tune in next time for another episode of The Business of Theater, a working title, with Darnell Radford and Mitch Weiss. Subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. Share the podcast with a friend, colleague, or give us some social media love. This podcast is an Emory production. Visit us online at em3ry.com/TBOT. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at em3ryotm.